I'm Alex Morash, and let's queer up students and youth culture. Trevor Project finds LGBTQ youth are politically active, but feeling the strain. A new report from the Trevor Project shows that most LGBTQ plus young people are politically engaged, but that engagement often comes with emotional strain. The research brief, Civic Engagement, Political Concerns, and Mental Health among LGBTQ plus young people draws from the 2024 U.S. National Survey on LGBTQ plus mental health. It found that 60% of respondents took some political action the past year, from volunteering, contacting elected officials, but nearly half reported at least one LGBTQ-related political concern, and many shown signs of anxiety or depression. Derrick Matthews, the Trevor Project's Director of Research Science, informs, stating, quote, "The data was collected at the end of 2023, so it's independent of the current political environment. It wouldn't be surprising if the political engagement has gone up since the survey was taken. A lot of these young folks are motivated by the anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and policy," end quote. Matthews added that activism doesn't cause distress, it's often a response to it. The report concludes that inclusive spaces and fewer systemic barriers are vital to LGBTQ plus youth and can shape a future that reflects their unique lived experiences. You know, I only got to glance at the report a little bit. I thought it was overall good. The researcher didn't discuss this in at least the quotes that we read, but another thing about it was the LGBTQ were more likely to be politically active if they had economic or another affordability issue as well, which didn't surprise me because I've been seeing that with young people all over the place in polls for the last three years.
I think that affordability and life and quality of life issue transcend sexuality in general. But I'm a grown-ass man and I have anxiety. I'm taking pills for depression. I just added a new new medication. This environment is simply not conducive to a healthy mental health.
Yeah, and I'm glad you talked about how people tend to be more focused by the economic, because I love the Trevor Project, but I also have to remind anyone when a LGBTQ nonprofit is pushing their research or whatnot, who has to remember sometimes the data we're looking at is affecting queer people, but it might not be as queer specific as the organization tries to push it. That doesn't mean that they're not I'm sure queer youth are concerned about LGBTQ discrimination. I'm sure of that. I just am saying that there might be other motivations that the people that donate to the Trevor Project don't necessarily want to hear, and I think that we need to talk about it a little bit more.
Well, it's encouraging from the story to see that there is evidence that young people are taking action. It can be very empowering, and yes, we all, I think, are feeling different types of anxiety or in some cases depression with the current political environment that we're in, not only in our country, but globally. And I think, we've talked about the turn of the blue tides, and that's great. So certainly want to encourage young people to empower themselves. It can really, I know when I've empowered myself in the past, as a young man when I was 21 and going out to marches on Washington and on the State House in New Jersey, it made me feel that I was stronger and that I was not a minority. And I would encourage that now.
And I also want to point out that there are significant hurdles and more obstacles for LGBTQ youth in terms of affordability too. I mean, there's a disproportionately large of young people who are homeless are LGBTQ people. They were being kicked out of their own home by their parents or by the other family members and ostracized from close connection to family. They can't go back to family. They can't go back to live in their childhood home to brave out economic downturn. That's not an option for them. That's not an option for most of us.
Exactly. I've written about the myth of LGBTQ affluence so many times that I've just made it a cliche headline at this point. But it's true, whether we're talking about young queer people or people in general, that the idea that we're all rich, every queer kid comes from a rich family and can just borrow daddy's Amex card to get through it all is absolutely false. I'm glad that you're bringing up, I'm glad you talk about young people empowerment. I'm glad no one tried to say the best answer is you should just go run for office yourself. That's not the answer to tell people that are going through a mental health crisis. Running for office is a very hard thing. Electoralism is useful, but it's not going to solve all of your problems in this world. So I'm glad that you guys have been talking about these good points tonight. So,
Thank
and of course, even though I give the Trevor Project a hard time on this one, they're a great organization. And remember that, and there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.